Here. It's going to take everything a moment to load up, but I think we should be good to go. It's trying to reconnect. It's not liking the profile today. I don't know why. Well, hopefully it's good. All right. Let's pin that. For some reason, it is not liking me doing the profile today. Let me give this one more try. That's very strange. Let's give this one more try, guys. See if it'll go live. Everything else is good. Looks like we're good on everything but my profile. Well, I think it's just going to be one of those days where that doesn't happen. So hopefully we get some good stuff going here in YouTube. Wait a minute. It finally loaded. No. The profile just doesn't want to load. It keeps trying to reconnect. It's saying poor connection. I've got 4 bars. I'm literally right by the modem. I don't know what it's doing. We're just going to let it run. We're going to let it do whatever it wants to do. But hopefully everything else goes good today. Looks like we got people already in the YouTube stream. So let's try to get a good thing going. I guess it's just not going to let me do the profile today. We'll just skip on it. Not a big deal. All right. Not a big deal. So hopefully we'll just do YouTube. We'll do the main Facebook fitness page and let's get a nice, good stream going. Hopefully we get some good comments, good questions, get everything flowing here nicely. We got a like already on YouTube. So hit that like as soon as you guys get in. Had a good workout today. Pretty happy with it. I was kind of tired, so the heavier work felt kind of heavy. Wasn't able to go too hard on the bench, although I probably could have gone better, except that I popped that upright, that J hook on the way out because I tried the different hooks today. So it messed me up just a hair. But it was still a pretty decent, just 325. But yeah, so again, we worked on squat, bench, deadlift. Then went pretty hard for rep work on pull-ups, incline bench, and then did just the one set of overhead. But I got a lot of box work in, a lot of box jumps today, and then, of course, the sled. So, again, we'll try to get another 5K in the morning. I got to, like I said in the vlog, I got to adjust my stride a little bit. That's what's causing the DOMS, right? So it's causing the DOMS situation. So hopefully we can get that resolved. Right, which I think we will. I think we'll get it resolved just fine. In the meantime, I need to delete those 2 attempted streams. They didn't work out. I might try to restart the profile a little bit anyways and see if it will load. So let's see. Marcelio says, see my question. Marcelio, I didn't see your question yet. Is it here in the live stream or is it under a post? Because I can't go check all my posts while I'm streaming, but I'm in YouTube and on Facebook both right now. Peppermint, what's going on? Yeah, we're live, Peppermint. Yeah, I can see you, Peppermint. We're good. I was over on the different screens real quick because I have a couple different streams going. But no, Marcelo, I didn't see any question yet on Facebook. All right, I didn't see anything yet. So if you'll go ahead and ask it, though, if you want to retype it, I'll get to it. But yeah, no, we're good here, Peppermint. Let's, again, we got views, we got likes, so let's get it going. Yeah, I finally did the video on the Jeff and everything. I had a few people ask me for a couple of days, they're like, you really need to address this with the Julian thing. Because I watched it and I watched what he had to say. And it's just, I said my piece pretty much in that video. I think that sums it up. I mean, that destroys his credibility. That destroys Jeff's credibility as much as I got hurt with the whole fake Merc thing. Let's be realistic here, right? we're at that level. When he's a guy who's pushing the whole, the natty thing, and then he's going to literally endorse such an obvious fake natty. This is a problem. Like, this is a problem for any integrity or honesty for him. Like, it's not a good look, Speaking as someone who's dealt with their own missteps, it's equally on par. Like, it is on par. Now, some people would say worse because my other was obviously a troll, but it doesn't matter because it hurt my credibility at the time. So, and that's kind of the point, right? Very much the point. Marcelio says on Facebook, I did 335 times 6 RDLs as a top set. Controlled reps. Can you give me a regular range of what my deadlift could look like realistically? No, because I don't know what your range of motion looks like on your RDL. Meaning, so for example, your RDL, you could literally change your range of motion of how far down you go and add or subtract a whole plate per side. So not really, we can't, because we don't have a finite fixed range of motion on the RDL. So there's no way to transfer anything realistically, but I find they're fairly comparable either way. Like your max, if you're doing a full range of motion RDL, I've had dudes who literally max out heavier than their deadlift. And I have some people who are lighter than their deadlift, even as a coach who's had people max on it on Conjugate. So here's what I would say. Just test your regular deadlift. So, guys will ask things like, well, so what do you think my whatever lift is? I don't know. Go do the lift. Right? And I can't set a strength standard on an exercise that doesn't have a terminal range of motion. Unless it's, hey, your RDL absolutely goes to mid shin. Right? Very little minimal, but how deep are you going? Are you videoing it? Like, are you stopping 2 inches off the floor? Or is it just barely clearing below the knee? So again, it doesn't matter that what you feel like your range of motion is there. Is it going deep enough for us to count it for a strength standard? There and lay the problem. So I can't give you a realistic, but I mean, if it's fairly deep, you probably should be able to deadlift at least 405. Wait, you really think a 275 times 5 bench is a late intermediate? You realize that means your max is 315 plus. You really think 315 bench is a late intermediate? Just kind of pointing that out, brother. So let's go over to Levesky. Hello, sir. I'm running Conjugate twice a week, alternating max effort and dynamic effort weeks as valid training split for a busy schedule. Yeah, if you need to do it that way, I can see that. For someone who can only get to the gym twice a week and they want to run Conjugate, that works as long as you're doing the rotation in the right order, right? I think you can get away with that because it's with everything being done every second week, at least you're not fully detraining. It's not going to be optimal, but I think what you're doing is workable. If you literally can only get to the gym twice a week and you do week 1 of ME, upper than lower, and the second week DE upper than lower, you can make it work. And I think that's a fair way to do it. Alan says, you only bike when you stream? Yes. Or also, no, Alan, 100% of my cardio is streamed because I would get bored with it and I can't work. So when I'm riding the bike, it's intense enough that typing and getting work done would actually be more difficult. So I figure I go ahead and I use it as streaming time to interact with my audience on multiple platforms. Right? Back over to Facebook. Marcelio says, yeah, I think a 275 times 5 bench is late intermediate. Not that hard. Fair enough, dude. I don't think that it is. I'm going to count that as advanced. I think if you can do rep work with 275, like 5 reps, you're an advanced bencher already. Especially at your body weight. Yeah, you're advanced. It's not late intermediate. You know? So I would say give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing pretty damn good. All right. Cato says, do you think this 4-day split is okay if I enjoy it? Push day, deadlift day, pull biceps day, squat day. Yeah. If you enjoy it, I think that's reasonable. It's not a bad split, to be fair. So push day, all your benching and pressing, deadlift day, which is again probably going to have some deadlift accessories, pull ups and biceps day and squat day. I think that's totally fair. Coach, how many of your big 3 have you got to elite standard in your life? The problem is Peppermint. I haven't filmed all of it because it was before smartphones. So I don't want to go there, but I would need to plug in, obviously, the squat and the deadlift. I've done them at elite. Technically, my last meet was an elite total. I would need to plug the numbers for my Asian weight to see if I'm elite on the bench stuff I've done in the gym. Not in competition, I haven't. Right? But for my age, I would have to run the numbers to see where the bench is. I don't know if me with my walk around weight, if that last bench is or not, but I could easily water cut to do the 198. And if I could still hit that, it might be. But, I don't know. I haven't plugged it into a chart. But my bench has not been in comp, but I've pulled it off with the other 2. Dean, we are live. Yes, we are, Dean. How you doing, brother man? Cad says, thanks. Would you say a conjugate MBD setup would be better? It's the same amount of enjoyment. Depends on what you're trying to do, Cad. I mean, conjugate, again, if you're really trying to peak for any sort of anything that's going to have maxes, works great. Like, I'll be fair, man. Like, as much as I like it for power lifters, my strongmen really get the most out of it. Like, I have a client now peaking for a strongman event who said, yeah, all the strongmen in his area all use conjugate. Makes sense? So funny enough, even though we think of conjugate as a powerlifting, honestly, man, my strongman clients really get the most carryover to their sport. And it makes sense when you think about how strongman works, right? The conjugate system works extremely well. And I know more strongman competitors who love conjugate than I know powerlifters who do these days. It just is what it is. Carol, hey, Jason, appreciate it. Carol, I'm also obviously on Facebook. Yeah, Coach, conjugate will get you strong. Can conjugate work for bodybuilders? I mean, in theory, but I've never seen anybody doing conjugate who's on the Olympia stage. So bodybuilding, to me, I don't have the same view of the word bodybuilding. When you tell me you're a bodybuilder, you compete. At a serious level. Like, if you're not trying to win shows or get a pro card in something, you're not actually a bodybuilder. Right? You might be building your body, or you might be someone who says, hey, I really care about my physique. Okay. You're a recreational lifter who cares a lot about their physique. Yes, strength definitely comes from hypertrophy, but I think the point with conjugate we're making is a lot of the ME work and stuff. And I would say it wouldn't necessarily be ideal for always for bodybuilding, but I've known bodybuilders who mess with conjugate type stuff. I'm just saying I wouldn't necessarily, if you were paying me to get you ready for a bodybuilding show, I probably wouldn't have you on Conjugate. Have I put off-season bodybuilders on it? Sure. And how good is the speed work? We don't know how good the speed work is for hypertrophy. There's no data. I believe it gives pretty good hypertrophy, in my opinion, my experience. But people question that a lot. Dean says, you mean showing all pennies at stage about correct. Correct. So if you're not doing that, you're not bodybuilding. But what hypertrophy doesn't necessarily come from strength. With what percentage of weight and band tension? I like people's baseline to be about 50% for raw. Okay. So I'm not going to give you my formulas, Kat. I have formulas for my clients on this. I'm not going to break them down for free in a live stream. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I'm not going to break down what percentages, how I break it down for clients who are paying me to write Conjugate. You could go to the Westside stuff and look at it. But to be fair, that is kind of something that's we're at client level, right? Other than here's the closest hit I'll give you. If we're working at 50%, I want your average strength curve to be 50%. Because it sounds like you could get some coaching. There you go, Cats, or a consultation. What is with the young manlet science trainers using seatbelts? Well, I don't know what that means, Richard. What are we talking about? I have no idea what you're even talking about. I use a seatbelt when I drive. So they're following the law, basic driving safety. I'm kind of at a loss. So sorry. You're required by law to wear a seatbelt. So I don't really get. They strap themselves in. Oh, well, yeah, it's because they're silly ass clowns. But they're not science based, are they? Okay. So if you were to go off all the current meta-analysis, is there any benefit at all to isolating a muscle? Set aside personal opinions, strictly the current scientific data that we have available, assuming it is accurate. Going purely off meta-analysis as they currently exist, only looking at science, not looking at common sense, not looking at anecdote or anything else. Only the science. That's all you look at. Is there a single benefit at all in the scientific literature as it stands with current meta-analysis to isolating a muscle for hypertrophy? The answer is no. The current literature says compound movements build just as much muscle as isolation in the target muscles. Cheat reps with loose form build just as much muscle, according to the current experts, as strict form in the primary movers. That's what the current meta-analysis and studies say. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that's the scientific stuff. So how are they science-based? Would be my reply. It's not a science-based position. What you mean is lazy ass dudes who are scared of doing work and pretending to be science-based. Okay. Hey, Richard, but you're using a real world example. You're using anecdote. Is that science-based? Notice what I said. Now, practically speaking, as a coach who's observed the real world, yeah, an arm wrestler probably wants to do a hell of a lot of forearm isolation. Let's just be realistic. But if we're going to go purely off scientific literature, right? Peppermint says, yeah, coach, you're one of the few who out there who honestly and accurately interpret the scientific literature as a person who reads studies for a living, right? You're in like biology. So again, realistically, if you put blinders on and ignored everything but the scientific literature, you would conclude that there is zero known measurable benefit to isolating a muscle in terms of hypertrophy. That is purely personal preference. Because if we go off the scientific literature, lat pull downs and curls are identical for bicep hypertrophy. If we go only on what's been proven in studies, there's no difference. Rows are slightly inferior to curls according to the data we have, but not vertical pulls, even with a pronated grip. So, and again, by the way, I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying if we go purely off of the current measured literature, what has been measured and studied. And we're talking purely hypertrophy, not necessarily just muscle activation. Menzer loved closed grip pull downs. Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. But those were even underhand grip. I'm talking an overhand grip. And that's where I would challenge someone on that. It's like, I'm not talking about the real world. Obviously, plenty of dudes who do tons of curls have freaky ass, massive ass arms. We're not talking about that. But if you went purely only off the available literature that's been looking at it for 20 years, there isn't evidence that curls produce more bicep hypertrophy measurable than a lat pull down or a pull up does with an overhand grip, according to what's been measured with studies where they MRI'd the muscles after. Even that one study I cited where I talked about the bench versus the skull crusher with the long head and the total tricep, it's been pointed out by some people, yeah, but they did double the tricep volume. I've seen literally someone with a master's in the field point out, okay, hey, that study's well and good, but of course you saw more total tricep growth. You did double the weekly volume. You did 6 sets instead of 3 sets. Wouldn't you expect the triceps to be bigger? Doing only 3 sets of bench versus 3 sets of skull crushers, or doing 3 sets of each. They kind of pointed that out. They're like, realistically. Plus, when we start getting to failure or heavy sets of bench, what happens with the long head when they measure it? I mean, you can make the case of with enough really heavy pressing volume that the long head still grow. What about if you're doing pull-ups too? So again, that's some of the problem with some of the data too. If we assume that doing more volume has a larger hypertrophic effect, couldn't they have just done 6 sets of bench per week? I don't know, because they didn't measure it. So that's one of the few that kind of showed that real benefit, but it's like there have been plenty of other studies to where they didn't even find muscles grew more. Like, well, let's do lat pull downs and then lat pull downs plus curls and see what happens. Almost no difference when they measured the bicep growth after 10 weeks. Holy crap. So, a lot of ways to look at that. And again, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. I'm saying that's what's been measured in the lab. All right. Scott says that was funny about Jeff. I don't know if it was funny, man. I'm just calling it like it is. I wasn't even intending to be humorous. It's just saying, hey, look, here's the deal, guys. Here's what's up. Here's the dealio. Jeff might see it and say something, he might not. He did have that pillow with my face on it that time. That was funny. Now, that was funny when I called Jeff out on that stuff years ago, and he literally made a pillow with my face and showed him on a video sleeping on it and hearing me talking trash in his head and using it to motivate himself. It was funny. So who knows? But yeah, man, the whole promoting an obvious fake natty, it's a bad look. And I'm saying that as someone who's gotten in trouble in the past for bad looks. I know what this looks like. It's like, Jeff, I know what a bad look looks like. I have some personal experience here. Yeah. Professionally, you look pretty bad when you did that. And it ruins his integrity. So if he's willing to just straight up endorse fake natties and defend them, that means that he is ethically and morally perfectly fine with fake nattyism while claiming to be natty and using it as a marketing point. Bit of a problem, you know? A lot of his fans called him in that video. If you read the comments, they were like, yeah, way to just completely skip the question. Ignore the argument. In your case, you were clearly trolling. Alan, I was, but a lot of people didn't interpret it as trolling. I've literally had people say, oh, that's claiming you were trolling. That's such a cop-out. But I mean, common sense should have been like, yeah, I was obviously trolling. Only two possibilities. Either I was trolling or I was crazy. That's our only two options, right? I was either taking the piss or I was delusional. You got to pick one. All right. But yeah, he's endorsing fake natties for personal gain. Lars says, Coach, afternoon, but you should really do an emergency video about the Jeff Nippard trying to fake natty scar him all over it with a revival. Hey, Lars, I did it this morning. Didn't you see it? It's already up. What do you think about the claim from science-based groups that bodybuilders are overall stronger than powerlifters? No, I haven't seen that, Marco. No, sorry, dude. I've been home from work. On it, my bad. Get on it, Lars. We're already on top of it. We're already on top of it. Alcoholism could affect people's perception. I wonder if Jeff is hitting the bottle a bit. I don't know. I don't want to speculate something like that, Alan. I'm going to hope, based upon his pursuit of fitness and health and supposed nattyism, that he doesn't drink. I'm not aware that he is a drinker. Now, I know that he smokes weed because he smoked weed with whatever that flaky-ass, weird Timberwolf guy. They were sitting around smoking weed, giggling like little girls together while he talked about, I paint vaginas as a hobby. Like, seriously, dude, just stop. Remember, they were giggling like schoolgirls while smoking weed on camera. I don't know. It kind of begs that question, too. Dudes are going to run around and talk about, I only use drugs that get me high. I don't use any drugs that would improve my career. What? Perhaps the Wes Watson thing messed you. It wasn't Wes Watson. It was that other guy who pretty much hit him in the throat. Right? Pretty much throat punched him. I might have messed with him a little though, man. That's Jeff claims he consumes. Oh, then he's fake natty, dude. No one who, yeah, I'm sorry. Anybody who uses recreational drugs, multiple recreational drugs, but then claims that they're a natural bodybuilder, yeah, I don't believe them. If someone is like, hey, I'm about that sober life, I'm more likely to believe them. They're like, dude, I don't use any recreational drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke pot. I believe in health and fitness. I'm more likely to believe them. Right? Because they're consistent. They're consistent in their values. So if a guy says, I choose to be natty because I don't want to risk my health, and they're like, I'm also sober because I don't want to risk my health. We see the research on alcohol. I don't smoke anything, including vaping, because we know what it does to the health. And they live their whole lifestyle that way. Are we more likely to believe their natty story? Especially if they claim it's for health reasons, right? They step back and say, look, I mean, I'd use gear if I wasn't worried about the health stuff. But I live a sober lifestyle. I don't drink alcohol either. I don't smoke anything because I care about my health. And they're logically consistent, you know? Did you hear that Greg Doucette commented a few videos admitting that Hussein for it? No, I didn't. I don't even watch any of that. I haven't seen anything Greg's put out lately. The Hussein guy, though, I mean, he's obviously doing gear. What are you guys talking about? Is that even in question? The dude put on a ridiculous amount of muscle in a short time, and he looks juiced up in some of them pictures that the little bit I've seen. What are we talking about? Is this even in debate? You know. Of course, everybody, when I put up Ted's update pictures and weight, everyone's going to be like, your client Ted's on gear, but he's gained fat. We did a semi-lean bulk. He was leaner when we started. So we about to do some tested comps though. So he's going to be piss tested. But yeah. But Ted doesn't look like Hussein, and that's the point. Yeah, I just got updated pictures from Ted today. I already know. Clients, I'm like, dude, he's literally prepping for multiple tested events. We can't risk it. And that's the thing for me. That is my rule. By the way, for those curious, as a coach, I don't allow any of my clients, to my knowledge, and I tell them that if they're on gear, I don't want them doing tested events. I can't afford the reputation hit. What kind of bike am I using? I don't know. It's probably been discontinued 8 years ago. I bought it on Amazon. Yes, I'm looking at the brand. It's called WorkFit. Right. So that's my point on that, because I've had that come up with a client before who's like, I don't think they're really going to test at this coming meet. I know I'm on gear, but I want to go do it. And I told him, dude, as my client, I know, because I already have enough negative publicity. I have enough BS. I can't afford to have one of my lifters get popped dirty at a drug tested event. Like, I can't. It's like, I've had enough career hits. I can't afford that. You guys know what I mean? No. You know, so it's one of those I do put my foot down on. And I tell them straight up, I can't have you publicly admitting to being my lifter if you're going to do a tested event on drugs. I cannot risk it. Yeah, it would pretty much bury a lot of my business. Does Julian? I don't know. I didn't look. And it would be no fault of my own. That's the point. So yeah, the thing is with Ted, we've talked about it. He is legit clean. So we've got some tested events coming up. So, yep. But people are still going to say it based upon the update. The fact that he's 195 and still has a six-pack. He's not as lean as he was, though. 20 pounds lighter. He's fatter. And that's what people are forgetting. It's like, dude, his waistline is up a couple inches. He's gained body fat. But it's still lean because he's maintained a six-pack. Oh, yeah. But that's the point of the So it is kind of a rule I do have as a coach, and I let my lifters know straight up. I'm like, if you're going to go do that, you can't do it after you publicly admitted to being my lifter. Like, I don't want any public connection between us if you're going to take those risks. It's not. Nope. Like, you better not even tell me you're doing it. And you damn well better not be telling people you're my client. Because I've had to have this conversation already of me flat down putting my foot down and being like, no, I'm not peaking you for the event. No. Nope. And they didn't do it. They're like, okay, cool, I totally understand. So I'm going to not do that. I'll stick to my untested ones. Yeah. Because I don't endorse that. Like, to be fair, I'm fine with people using gear. I'm fine with my clients blasting gear. Don't do tested events, right? Don't do natural bodybuilding shows. Don't do tested powerlifting meets. Don't do tested strongman events if you're going to use gear. That's all I ask. No, I'm out of the loop, Alan, and I don't want to be current because I don't approve of it. And as far as if you're a professional athlete, I get it. You're going to have to. There are people who specialize in that. You don't need me. You need doctors who specialize in it. There's teams that do that. And you already have millions of dollars. You already have a $5 million contract. You're just going to go hire the doctor. You don't need me. Make sense? So, no, I'm not up to speed at all. And I just don't care to, because we're at the point of amateur versus professional sports. Now these amateur sports have untested divisions. Not a problem, right? So it's something that doesn't even need to exist really outside of the professional realm. And I get it, pro sports, you're going to have to use 7 drugs. It's just the way it is. But there are doctors that help you through that. And again, you're a professional athlete with professional athlete income. And you're probably not hiring Coach Blaha if you have a $5 million contract. As much as I think, hey, I'm great, I'm just not seeing it happening. I've never had a professional athlete contact me once. Not that I would turn it down. I would want pro athlete prices though. But oh man. So yeah. Thing happening on Facebook, not really. Although that troll is there, he's probably going to be on the other stuff. I'm going to go rearrange. Okay. How do you tell if someone has good genetics? What do you mean? Marco, you don't know how to tell if someone has good genetics? You look to see what genetic traits they display. You might want to be specific, Marco. We all have great genetics. We wouldn't have survived. We all have superior genetics. Or do you mean for something specifically? Do you mean for the bench press? Do you mean for bodybuilding? Are you talking bodybuilding structure? Or are you talking about the most important part, which is resilience to steroid side effects being a genetic trait? Okay, so here's a good way to tell if you have good genetics for bodybuilding. Go shoot 2 grams of testosterone a week and see what your blood work does. If your estrogen doesn't get particularly high on 20 times a therapeutic dose, your blood pressure stays semi-reasonable, and your HDL doesn't crash to rock bottom, you have really good bodybuilding genetics. Okay. Even better if you have great insertions. Okay. How do you tell if you have good bench press genetics? You probably have short arms and you bench 315 9 months into working out with no program. You probably have superior bench press genetics. How do you tell if you have great squat genetics? You squat 405 in your first year of lifting without a program. That's how you tell. All right. So Matt, Blaha full body session done and dusted. Weekend to rest and relax. Awesome, good stuff, man. It's just going to be cardio for me this weekend. Now, if you mean just overall good genetics, usually facial symmetry, right? Really good facial symmetry is considered to be a sign of good, strong, healthy genetics. So you might want to be specific. Yeah, some people have freakish genetics for certain endeavors. They're in the top higher than 1%. They exist. If one ever cardio setting, it's going to be awesome. Hey, inspirational because I'm also on Facebook. I'm not going to answer that. I do gear consultations though at $100 an hour. Hit me up for a message. I'll be happy to help you. But I don't do a lot of gear chat in these because I'm streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and Facebook has stricter rules. So sorry, dude, no advice there. But if you can hit me up for a consultation call, I'll be happy to help you. Like I said, $100 for a call. Walk you through everything you need to know. Because that's a very nuanced topic. Okay, fair enough. Although I will say, yeah, you start messing around with 19 NORs, you definitely need to be aware of some different things. They have their own set of complexities, particularly if testosterone is above a therapeutic dose. It's not for everybody. Are you familiar with training? I'll leave some of that alone. I'm only slightly familiar. I'm not saying I'm a big advocate for some of what he's doing. Keep in mind, a lot of what he's doing, he gets away with because of the drugs. Yeah, his intensity is insane. I don't necessarily think that's beneficial for people not on drugs to do what he does. Now, granted, you're talking about a drug stack, so I understand where you're coming from. But that's true of a lot of any extended sets. Like for drug-free lifters, intensity techniques are probably not useful for muscle growth. When you up your dose, do a new cycle, they can be. For reasons I broke down in videos. I've broken down the science of why that is in videos. But keep in mind, man, I'm just not a fan of hardcore bodybuilding and joints what Jordan Peters pretty much does is the really hardcore into bodybuilding. Yeah. Yeah, obviously the dude's intensity is pretty. I do know who he is. Yeah, his intensity is pretty up there. Like there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. I'm not even going to debate against that point. Um, Coach, watched a big female fitness influencer say that salad is useless because it has no protein. Wow, and fiber takes up protein and fat. What? She told people to just drink the oil. Looney Tune. Yeah, that's absolutely Looney Tune. Anyone who's anti-fiber is a clown. Jason, I can see the striations you picked. I don't know about that. I don't know that we got chesticle striations happening. We're not that lean yet. How rare is a specimen like Larry Wheels, his bench strength, his body weight, and body fat? Larry Wheels is well in for strength genetics, well into the top percentile. Probably well above the top percentile. Extremely rare. I don't know, 1 in 10 million? Probably. So again, you're talking in terms of strength potential. Larry Wheels is a genetic freak. Keep in mind, he was blasting 2.5 grams a year as a teenager on top of it. So that's also a factor. So extreme freak strength genetics plus an openly admitted 2.5 gram stack when he was like 17. Public admission of the exact doses. A decade ago, he broke it down of what he was using. So that's what happens. When someone starts using 2.5 grams a year at a very young age, you ask freak strength genetics, you get Larry Wheels. Class dismissed on that one. All right, guys, I think about time to wind this one down. I do want to start getting ready to eat. This was a hard training day, and I'm still fasted. So I probably want to go ahead and wind this down and work on getting some food in me. So I'm not going to run this to the full hour. Let me shut down Facebook. And so I'm going to drop out of here. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys in the morning on another stream.